You get the text. Someone wants to hang out this weekend. Nothing crazy, just coffee, maybe dinner. And before you've even finished reading the whole text, something in your chest lets go. Not dread exactly, relief. You already know you're going to say no, and some part of you feels lighter for having decided that before you've even typed a word back. You'll probably tell yourself it's because you're tired, or busy, or that you just don't have the energy this week. And maybe that's even true. But check next weekend, and the one after that. If that sounds familiar, you've probably been handed the explanation everyone gets handed. You're an introvert. Your social battery drains fast. You just need quiet to recharge. Fine. Except a lot of people who prefer being alone as adults were not quiet kids. Some of them were the loudest kid in the class, the one narrating recess like a sports announcer, talking to strangers in the grocery line until their parents wanted to sink into the linoleum. And now they're the adult who'd rather text than see anyone. So if the battery metaphor doesn't quite explain the loud kid who grew into the adult who screens calls, what actually happened in between? Go back further than most people are willing to go. This usually isn't about digging up trauma, nothing dramatic enough for a case file. Just an ordinary childhood where needs got met inconsistently. Maybe a parent working 2 jobs and running on fumes. Maybe someone who loved their kid fiercely and was at the same time silently drowning in their own life. So the comfort came late, or came with static on it, or didn't come at all. No one did anything wrong on purpose. It was just uneven. And a small nervous system, one that hasn't developed language for any of this yet, starts running its own private experiment. How much can I need before needing becomes a problem? This is roughly the territory attachment researchers have been mapping since the 1970s, starting with a psychologist named Mary Ainsworth, who built a simple, almost devious little experiment called the strange situation. A parent leaves the room, a stranger comes in, the parent comes back. The researchers just observe what the kid does. Some kids cry, then run to the parent and settle fast. Others cry and can't settle even once the parent's back, like the fear outlasted the reason for it. And then there's a group that barely reacts. Parent leaves, the kid keeps playing. The parent returns, the kid barely glances up. For years, that last group got read as the easy kids, low maintenance, independent early in a good way. But in 1993, researchers Gerald Spangler and Karen Grossman ran the same separation experiment again, except this time they also measured what the kids' bodies were doing underneath all that composure. Heart rate, stress hormones, the stuff a face can't fake. And the outwardly calm kids, internally, they were just as activated as the ones who'd been sobbing. Same arousal, same stress response, none of it reaching the surface. The face said fine. The body ran a completely different story. That gap between what gets shown and what actually gets felt is basically where this whole video lives. Because a kid doesn't consciously choose to stop reaching for comfort. Nobody's signing a contract at age 3. It happens more like calibration. If reaching out gets met, the nervous system learns reaching out works. If reaching out gets met sometimes, or gets met with someone else's exhaustion layered on top of your own, the system slowly turns the volume down on showing what you need without ever turning down the actual need underneath it. Showing it and getting nothing hurts twice as much as never showing it at all. Kids are better at that math than we ever give them credit for. Fast forward 20, 30 years, and that kid is now an adult who's genuinely great in a crisis. Weirdly calm under pressure, the friend everyone leans on, and also the one who goes quiet the second someone starts leaning back. Ask this person for help and watch how fast they show up. Ask if they need help and watch the deflection artistry kick in. The joke, the sudden urgent fascination with their own phone, even their read receipts seem to have trust issues. Somewhere back there, a small kid learned that needing things out loud didn't reliably work. So the adult version of that kid just stopped placing the order. Quick detour because this gets confused constantly. This isn't the same thing as social anxiety. Social anxiety is the fear of being watched, judged, embarrassed in front of people, and plenty of avoidant adults have none of that. They're fine in a crowd, sometimes genuinely the life of it. The crowd is easy. It's the one person sitting close asking a real question and actually waiting around for the real answer where things get uncomfortable. It tends to show up loudest in romantic relationships, if we're honest, because dating sort of forces the whole pattern into the open.
A partner starts wanting more closeness, real check-ins, an actual answer to "how was your day?" and something in the avoidant person starts negotiating an exit without ever announcing it. Rarely a dramatic one, usually nothing you could point to directly. Sometimes it's just getting slowly, mysteriously busier. Sometimes it's picking a small fight right when things start feeling genuinely good, because closeness to an old nervous system can register as a threat rather than a comfort. There's a term for the extreme end of this that gets thrown around a lot lately: hyperindependence, which sounds almost like a compliment until you realize it usually just means someone who'd rather move an entire apartment alone at midnight than send one vulnerable text asking a friend for help. And look, solitude by itself isn't evidence of anything. Some people are just wired for lower stimulation, genuinely calmer with a book and some silence, no backstory required. That's temperament, and it's healthy. And honestly, it deserves a lot less suspicion than it gets online these days. The giveaway shows up somewhere else entirely, the moment someone gets close enough to actually want something from you emotionally. If a kind, steady person shows real interest, real care, and the first instinct is to create distance, cancel plans, or manufacture some small forgivable reason to be annoyed, that's not preference doing its job. That's an old system built when you were maybe 6, still running the exact protocol it wrote back then. Solitude gradually stopped being a choice somewhere along the way and became a room you retreat to specifically because it never asks anything of you. Here's what tends to get missed in most of the attachment-style content floating around. None of this makes you broken with excellent Wi-Fi. It was genuinely a smart adaptation given what a small kid had to work with at the time. The actual problem is just that a strategy built for a 6-year-old's world doesn't come with an expiration date stamped on it. So it keeps running unnoticed at 34 in your own apartment around people who would, in fact, come back if you let them. If any of this landed a little too accurately, that's worth paying attention to, not spiraling about. Notice the next time you feel that flicker of relief at getting to cancel on someone. Notice what your body does the second someone asks how you're actually doing underneath the automatic, "I'm fine." That reaction has history behind it. Decades-old data still running the calculations in the background, and old data can be corrected once you actually know it's there. It doesn't mean forcing yourself to want constant closeness or performing neediness you don't feel just to prove a point to your own nervous system. It just means noticing the pattern before it makes the decision for you every single time without ever asking whether you'd have chosen differently. If any of this landed a little too accurately, that's worth paying attention to, not spiraling about. If you saw yourself somewhere in this, say yes in the comments, even just one word. Sometimes the fastest way to loosen a pattern like this is watching how many other people are carrying the exact same one without ever having said it out loud. One last thing. If any of this hit close to home, I left a list of recommended reading in the description that goes deeper into it. This recommended reading is for anyone who had to grow up too fast or create distance from their family just to breathe as an adult. It's not about reliving the past or blaming anyone. It's about finally recognizing the patterns clearly enough to stop letting them shape your life. It helps you better understand your attachment style, develop healthier personal boundaries, and gain practical psychological insights through clear, straightforward explanations grounded in well-established research.